Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar on getting out of debt. I do want to acknowledge that, being in debt is one of the main reason that people experience financial stress in their lives. It can really feel overwhelming and it can prevent you from reaching your financial goals. So congratulations to everybody here for taking the first step on your financial journey and by attending this webinar, because it's really great that you're here. All right. So my name is Jen Fries. I'm joined by my team member, Terrence Bazil, in the background. And we might do a little bit of just back and forth too as we go along, because we each have perspectives and have had at different times in our lives had this journey of getting out of debt. We are the community engagement team along with our colleague Ty Coppelson. We are all certified credit union financial counselors. And we do a lot of workshops and webinars in the community, and also manage some of the credit union's involvement in volunteering and charitable endeavors. So you might have seen us out and about for different things, and we're happy that you're here with us. I do like to just let people know who are on the webinar that we can't see you and we can't hear you. So you can go ahead and eat your lunch. I know it's noon. If you have anything going on in the background, don't worry, you're automatically muted. But you still can participate actively in this webinar by putting questions into the Q&A feature. So it's not the chat, but it is the Q&A feature of Zoom. If you don't see it on your Zoom toolbar, go into the three dots on the far right where it says more. So go to your toolbar where you would normally mute yourself, etc. Go into more and you'll see Q&A or question and answer there. At any time during this presentation, you can enter in a question. We're going to get to all the questions at the end. We have a bunch that were submitted ahead of time, and then we'll try and answer anything that you can ask live. So do feel free to participate that way, and we are going to try and get through all the questions. You can go ahead into the Q&A if you want and let us know. You can test it by letting us know where you're joining us from. That's always nice for us to hear, and then you'll know how to use it. This presentation is being recorded. You'll get the slides and the recording sent to you. It's going to also be posted on our YouTube channel. And on our YouTube channel, you'll find a lot of great presentations from the past, so feel free to dip into those for more information. And we are going to send you, everyone who's registered, we are going to send you a survey and ask for your honest feedback about things we can do better. We do change our presentations based on the feedback we get, so thank you for giving us that honest feedback. We love to have it. So before we dive into the content, I do want to just tell you briefly what who Harvard FCU is, what is a credit union. For those of you who don't know, I know a lot of people on this webinar are already members of the credit union. But if you're not, Harvard Federal Credit Union does everything that your bank would do, but we are a not-for-profit. We are owned by our members. And everything we do is for the benefit of our members and having a positive impact on your life and your financial life. We're community focused. And once you're a member for life. You can, even if you leave your job that gave you eligibility, or, if you were at Harvard or one of the Harvard teaching hospitals and you left, you can still bank with us. You can do anything with us that you normally would do with a bank, like get a mortgage, a car loan, an education loan, a personal loan, a credit card, obviously high yield savings, checking, all those good things. And with that difference being just that all the money is held and owned by the members. So that gives us the ability to basically have lower fees and a lot of great services. And one example of that is if you have a debit card with us and the ATM you're at charges you a fee, we will refund that fee so anywhere in the country. So um, that's just one example of the kind of, we try and have the lowest fees we can, the highest interest rate possible so that it's to the benefit of our members. We are sometimes called the Thrive team, the community engagement team. And because we have this idea that you can thrive in your financial life, if you go to the Thrive page, you're going to find a lot of great content there. So I just want to point that out, that it's there for you. All right. So diving into the main portion of the content here is if you're facing debt, you're not alone. Many of us have been there. I know personally, when I got divorced, I was facing a lot of credit card debt. Had charged certain things like legal fees, et cetera. And I had to kind of climb out, and it did take me a few years. But I did get out of it, and it is possible to get out. So the first step that we usually recommend to folks, if you're thinking about getting out of debt, is to think about why. I know it sounds obvious, like, well, of course I want to be out of debt, but why do you personally want to pay off your debt? Because money is personal. So what would be your goals if you did pay off debt? What would be different in your life? What would you be able to do differently if you had that debt paid off? So I want you to take a moment to picture that for yourself. What would be next for you if you had your debt paid off? And if you're able to write that down for yourself. When you write down a goal or you write down an observation about your financial life, you are more likely to build on that with positive steps. You're more likely to achieve your goal if you write it down. So if you have a goal that paying off your credit cards or paying off your student loan debt would allow you to do, then I encourage you to write that down now. And then we're going to talk about how you can get there. So for me, one of my goals when I was trying to pay off those credit cards is that I had some home repairs that I had been putting off. I had bought my ex out of the house when we divorced, but there were certain things that really needed to be done, deferred maintenance. But I didn't want to get deeper and deeper into debt. So I wanted to wait until my credit cards were paid off and I had a little bit of money saved before I did those. So those are some really positive things in my life because, of course, things in your home, you use them every day and you do notice it. All right. So first step, now that you know the why, is to think about to understand exactly who you owe, what do you owe, who do you owe it to. So what we recommend you do is, this can just be on paper, it can be a spreadsheet, however you feel comfortable, but literally making a list of every creditor you have, who do you owe money to, the current balance, and the interest rate that you pay, because you're going to be making some decisions based on which ones are higher and lower interest rates. And a lot of our credit cards are variable. So when I go in to check, like it may have changed from 2 months ago or something. So this is a good exercise, even if you think you already know this, like check how much of interest you are paying for each of these balances that you have. You can get your credit score for free if you are a Harvard FCU member. We're going to talk about that. But you may also be able to do that through some other banks. You can check your credit report through annualcreditreport.com. If you don't know what you owe, you can go into annualcreditreport.com and go through the process to check your credit with the bureaus. And that is a free service. It is government approved, annualcreditreport.com. Don't go somewhere else. I think Terrence is putting that into the chat. So if you don't know what you owe, you can find it there. Or if you're a Harvard FCU member, you can find it through our online banking through Savvy Money. But now you've got your list. Okay, so now you know what you owe. But how much is your debt actually costing you? Because when we borrow money, obviously the interest is the cost of debt. So the interest that we pay is how much we are paying for that debt. So this is just an example. This borrower, this person has borrowed two loans. One is $10,000 at 7.5%. So it's a pretty good interest rate nowadays. The other one is a $5,000 loan at 18%. The total interest over the life of the loan that this borrower is paying is nearly $7,000. You can see in interest to their lenders. I think for simplicity, this example is just a set number. It's a 120 months or 60 months loan, but you may have one that's a revolving credit card, and that's fine too. So in total, again, this is about $7,000 that they owe, and their monthly payments around $246 a month. So they owe 15,000 total. So once you've done that exercise, you've written it all out, you know how much you owe. That's going to be a great first step. One thing that we'd like to acknowledge is that one reason that a lot of people fail to make progress on paying back debt is that you don't prioritize having some kind of emergency savings. When an emergency happens, you end up using your credit card or borrowing a loan. And I certainly have been there where it's like, well, that's what you had to do and you end up going deeper into debt. I don't want anyone on this call to feel embarrassed about debt. Debt is something that is really normal. A lot of people in our country do have debt, and there may be very good reasons to have debt, but you are going to feel a lot of freedom if you are able to save some money so that you can dip into your savings while you are when you experience something, so that you don't have to add it to that credit card debt. So what we recommend, and it sounds a little paradoxical, I guess, is that you can be doing both debt repayment and savings at the same time. And we definitely recommend that you do that. And you can start slow. It really does make a difference. So while you're figuring out what you have for your payments and how much you have a month free, you might think about, okay, I can put $50 a month into my emergency fund, or $50 a paycheck, $100 a month or a little bit more, depending how often you get paid. So even if it's a small amount, if you start auto depositing a certain amount into your emergency fund, eventually trying to get up to at least 3 months of expenses, ideally around 6 months of expenses that you build up to over time. If you start slow and do that, you're going to thank yourself later. And then when you have one of these things that is a smaller kind of emergency, you still can dip into that. Like, oh, okay, well, I had something come up that normally I would have put on a credit card, like a car repair. You know what? I can dip into the emergency fund and replenish it later. And you're going to thank yourself later if you're able to do that. All right. So just acknowledging that, thinking about a strategy for how much can you put into savings. Then let's move on to a couple of classic debt repayment strategies. So there's sort of two main methods that you may have heard of. These are the snowball and the avalanche methods. The snowball and the avalanche methods have one thing in common. In both cases, you do need to be paying your minimum payments on each debt monthly. So both for the snowball and the avalanche, you figure out what your minimum payments are. You need to make sure that you are doing that. I actually have my minimum payments come out automatically. You can usually set that up with your credit card. And I know my minimum payments are small enough that for me, I know I can handle that. So my minimums come out automatically, and that means I'm never charged a fee ever for failing to make a payment. And then I do go in and pay off my credit card each month. But when I was in the time of having to pay off a larger debt and in debt for a period of time, I had to choose whether I do which one of these I do, snowball or avalanche. So snowball, that's when you take your smallest loan first. And this is the idea of building a snowball. If you've ever done that, you're rolling and your snowball's small at first, but the more you roll it, the bigger it gets. So you start with your smallest loan. And the idea is you just pay that one off. Whatever extra money you have to dedicate, you cannot just make your minimum payments. You do need to pay extra if you want to pay down your loan. So what is the extra payment you can make each month? You're putting that extra payment toward your smallest loan until it's gone. And then you roll up that payment. You keep applying that same amount, but to the next smallest loan. So this is a great method for people who are really struggling. You have too many credit cards or you're missing payments and having trouble staying on top of stuff. The snowball can make it so that, okay, now you've paid off all your credit cards except maybe the largest one, and then you're really going to apply all your payments to that. Um, so it is more of a psychological win too. You get those early wins and don't discount psychology and money. That can be really important. So I know I'm a person that I love to see an early win. And so just having something totally paid off can make you feel great. Um, then we get into the avalanche method. The avalanche, the difference being that you start with your highest interest debt. This is the one that makes the most sense from a math perspective because your highest interest debt, it's compounding faster, what you have to pay in interest. So if you apply your extra payments to your largest debt or your highest interest debt rather, you will find that um, it will have big impact because the interest rate that is running up really quickly, you're going to be stopping that, helping control that, the rise of that, and making the most mathematical difference in your debt. It can take a little longer before you actually see that it's fully paid off because that may or may not be your largest loan. Um, when that highest interest debt is paid off, then you move to the credit card with the next highest interest rate, or the loan, might be a student loan, with the next highest interest rate going down the hill. So that, like an avalanche, going downhill. And in the end, you're left with lower interest debt, and you can decide, do I want to pay this off? Does it make sense to maybe just keep paying the minimum on this? Whatever makes sense in your life. So I had a direct loan from the federal government that was a really low interest rate, and that was my lowest priority. So my credit cards with the highest interest rate were my biggest priority. So starting with the highest interest one. So Avalanche is what I did by and large when I was paying off my debt. Terrence, I don't know if you want to jump in here and talk a little bit about did you choose Snowball or Avalanche? What do you think when you
I
were paying down
chose
debt?
I chose the avalanche method
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to get rid of my higher interest rate first, and that's what
Hmm.
was actually recommended by GreenPath because it helps me save the most money over time.
Okay.
And it was pretty easy. It did take some doing where I had to do some math and figure out like, all right, how much per pay period is this going to cost me and like break it down in that way so that I can set up my
Yeah.
automatic payments.
Hmm.
But after the initial work that I did to set that up, I'm not actually doing anything to pay down my debt. I'm just letting things cycle through, and that's been really easy and really
You are doing
helpful.
something, but you're doing it automatically, right? Is
Correct. Yes, 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 yes.
that
I
okay?
am doing it automatically. Well,
Uh-huh.
it's the initial setup, and then now it's flowing through automatically. And I do
Yeah.
monitor it, but it's
Uh-huh.
because it happens automatically, it doesn't feel as I don't feel as much resistance when it comes to like making that payment. And that works with my money personality really well.
Yeah. And you made reference to Green Path. For everyone on this call, we're going to give you a free counseling service that we work with. We partner with Green Path. They are a nonprofit. They're wonderful. So if you want to make a budget with them, figure out your best strategy, we'll tell you more about Green Path in a bit. And there is a slide with the way to get in contact with Green Path in a bit. So
Hmm.
thanks for mentioning that, Terrence. Um,
No problem.
all right, so yeah, this is just an illustration again of debt avalanche, starting from the highest interest rate, going down, debt snowball, starting with the smallest loan. So say you had a $500 credit card debt somewhere, and you just wanted to be done with that payment, that might be a snowball method thing where you're starting with the smallest one, just knock it out completely so that you don't owe anything, and then move on. Okay, so we do want to talk about how just a little bit of extra every month can go a long way. Um, So we have this example of a $10,000 loan at 7%. This person has a monthly payment of $200. If they pay just an extra $25 a month, so 225 a month, they're going to knock 8 months off their loan. So that much sooner that they can just be done with what they owe. If you can pay an extra $50 a month, if that's possible for you, you can cut 14 months off your loan, um, and $400 in interest. So I know it seems like overwhelming, but you, whatever you feel like you can devote each month extra above the minimum payment is going to really help you get a handle on your debt and get out from under it. So, um, and now we want to talk about some options that you have and how you can think through what to do if you're feeling like it's hard to make, or if you're feeling overwhelmed making that plan to get out from under it. Okay, so the one first thing that we do recommend is that maybe you talk with your lender. You might be able to negotiate a lower credit card interest rate. If you call and speak to them, often if you call and say that, you're thinking about transferring your balance to another lender or something like that. But if they can give you a lower rate, you'd like to keep it, like often they can just give you a lower rate, and that's definitely worth negotiating if need be. If you are struggling with paying at all and meeting your monthly bills, like maybe you're in a layoff situation or some other unusual situation, you can propose a new payment. A lot of people don't know this, that whatever your minimum payment is may be also negotiable. And you might be eligible for things like loan deferment, loan forbearance, skip a pay, different programs that lenders can have if you are in a hardship moment. So certainly be in touch with your lender if you are going to have a situation where you're having trouble paying, or if you believe that there's some flexibility to get a lower interest rate. Write down your conversations, who you talked to, the date, what they said, so that you remember and you can go back to them if for some reason it doesn't happen the way you thought it was going to, that you can go back and explain to them, you talked to this person on this date and they said that this thing could happen. Um, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, again, we're going to give you that Green Path resource, so that's one of the things that Green Path can potentially do for you or with you. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay. So then what about refinancing? I sort of alluded to that. Refinancing is when you get a new loan that pays off your previous loan and you have a different lender now. Some things to watch out for if what you're refinancing is a student loan that was with direct loans with the federal government. If you refinance with a private lender, it's all new terms. It's going to make you not eligible for any federal forgiveness or forbearance. And I know there's a lot of doom and gloom news about federal student loan programs, but there are still some very important federal forgiveness and forbearance programs. So you don't want to give those up if you don't have to. So you need to know the terms of your loan. What do you have now? And then what would you be moving to make it worthwhile? But for credit cards, depending on your credit score, you may get a lot of offers for like 0% transfer your balance kind of things. And those kind of refinancing things can really make sense. It may also make sense to refinance in a personal loan. So we'll talk through some of those options. Okay, so we talked about, so refinancing, obviously the reason to do it is the benefit of a lower interest rate. You're not going to do it unless you can get a lower interest rate, or possibly if you need extended loan terms for a lower monthly payment. Maybe you're just really struggling to make your monthly bills, and having it extended out is worth it to you, knowing that you'll pay more interest over time. But sometimes that's worth it. There are good reasons. seasons in your life where you may need to do that kind of thing, and that might make sense. You're going to look for a new loan with no application fee and in particular, no prepayment penalties. You never want to take a loan where there is written in the fine print a penalty for paying it off early. You want to be able to pay your loans off early if you want to. So look for those. You want to avoid lenders. That's typically a bad sign in general about a lender if there's a prepayment penalty. So that's not something that you want to get yourself into. All right, so here is an example of some of the benefits of refinancing. It can reduce your monthly payment and your interest paid, or you could keep the same payment and have it paid off 3 months earlier. So this person has a $10,000 loan, they have a $200 monthly payment to start. And if they just kept their same loan, their total interest that they would have paid is 1858, and it would take them 60 months, so 5 years. If they can get a 5% interest rate, one option would be to go down to a monthly payment of 189. And they're still going to pay less interest. It'll be 1,323 total, and they'll have, again, those 5 years to pay off the loan. So that seems like a no-brainer to at least do that. But you may also look at that and say, you know what? I I would rather have it paid off earlier. So I'm going to stay with my $200 payment and be done in 57 months. And another thing you can do is, I mean, you can have a monthly payment of 200 and occasionally throw a little extra money that way. And again, you're going to see those months peel off your loan, and it's really gratifying to see that. So stick with a monthly payment that you know you can afford, but you can also send money in addition to that. So, all right, some things to think about when you are looking at refinancing. We've already talked about comparing the interest rates. Obviously, you want to have a better interest rate, but you also want to make sure that you're not, for instance, giving up a fixed interest rate for a variable one, because that could go up quite a bit more than your current fixed rate. You also want to look at if you're going to lose any benefits, like we talked about with those federal loans, but there may be other, depending where you're getting your loan from, any benefits that you have with your current loan. Oh, you want to weigh that. Is it worth moving it in order to have that better interest rate? You may have improved your credit score, so you may be eligible for a lower interest rate. So you may want to do a little work on improving your credit score. We do have presentations on that, and Green Path does do individual counseling on that. We're going to give you also another resource on improving your credit score. But if you're able to improve your credit score, then you can go back either to the original lender or to a new lender and say, hey, I have this better credit score. Can I get a better interest rate? So those are some options to think about. You may want to think about getting a personal loan. So a lot of times we have at Harvard FCU, if you go into borrow and personal loans, we do have personal loans available for our members, and they may be lower interest rate than what you're paying on a credit card. And you usually will have a fixed monthly payment and a fixed term of time. So you know at the end of that time, you're going to be out of debt, so long as you don't add to your credit cards in the meantime. Debt consolidation loans are similar. We talked about the credit card balance transfer, but one important caveat to that is if you get those offers in the mail for 0% financing, and we do have some of those, you can transfer onto Harvard FCU credit cards usually for 0%. Those are great, except that you do need to look, usually there's a certain term, it's 0% for a certain amount of time. If you don't have the original balance paid off by the end of that term, you will have all that interest accrue back onto the credit card. So you do need to look at how much time you have. Usually it's 1 year, but not always, for the offer. Divide it by what the amount that you owe, how much do you need to pay, and give yourself a little wiggle room so you have it all paid off by the end of the term of the 0%. that can be a great because you're able to then pay while you're really not paying any interest at all. So it's a great option. Not everyone gets those offers because it really depends on your credit score, whether or not you're even getting those 0% offers. But if you have them, you can take advantage of those. I was able to use one of those for my getting out of debt process. So I transferred my highest interest credit card balance onto a 0% card and had that paid off within the year. So, and that was my priority to get that done. You may also want to refinance other debts, such as a mortgage, if you can get a lower interest rate. Um, you may want to refinance your auto, and you may want to think about student loan refinancing with the caveats that we talked about we don't typically recommend giving up the federal low interest loans because they have so many good programs that go along with them. But it may make sense for you if you talk to a counselor in particular, and that's a recommendation, then that might really make sense. So I've been talking a lot about GreenPath. I do want to emphasize that GreenPath is here for you. You do not need to be a Harvard FCU or credit union member to get the help from GreenPath. GreenPath is a nonprofit. Just by being on this webinar, you're eligible to reach out to them through this link that we're putting here. And GreenPath provides counseling for getting out of debt, student loan counseling, housing counseling, budget counseling. They can help you make a budget so that you can figure out how much you can put toward your debt. So it actually doesn't say on the slide, but it should that they are certified student loan counselors as well. Um, so GreenPath is a great resource if you want individualized, like, here's my situation, I don't know what to do. And you can see them once or you can see them many times. GreenPath also offers a service. So all those things are free, the counseling. GreenPath also offers a service which is paid called the debt management plan, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So let me actually go into that a little bit. So what is a debt management plan? A debt management plan with GreenPath is they're a nonprofit again. They provide you with financial counseling and they create a strategy for you to reduce your interest rate on your debts. They, as we mentioned before, they can call your creditor for you and negotiate lower interest rates potentially on some of your debts. And then there is a monthly fee. And this is not the same as debt settlement. You'll sometimes see for-profit companies advertising, often like late middle of the night situation on TV or on some internet sites, whatever, you'll see debt settlement. Debt settlement is a different it's a different kind of program, and it's one that we typically don't recommend. There may be some individual circumstances where debt settlement makes sense, but you're going to have a tax bill at the end if you do debt settlement, and often they don't fully clear your debt. In a debt management plan, you are going to be paying back everything you owe over time, but because they negotiate a lower interest rate with you, with your creditors, and GreenPath is a nonprofit that's known by a lot of the creditors, and a lot of them, they have an automatic, like if you're a GreenPath client, then you're going to get a lower rate automatically, or they might call individually on your behalf. So if you currently, this is an example of a person who currently had five debts. They were making payments of $799 a month. And outside of the debt management plan, of that $799 that they were paying 573 of that just toward interest. So the vast majority of what they're paying was going toward interest and was not going to pay down the debt. Only $75 was going toward their principal payments each month. So they just really were not ever going to get out of debt. On the GP means GreenPath here, on the GreenPath debt management program, Their interest rates were reduced really significantly. So now they're only paying $234 a month of their $799 payment was going toward interest. So the rest, the $408 is going toward, oh, sorry, 484 is going toward their principal. Um, and there is a $50 service fee for the debt management plan per month. But as you can see, they are going to pay off their debts. In this case, this member would pay off their debts 40 months sooner, and they would save $31,960 in interest. So this can be a really significant, if you are drowning in debt, debt management plan with GreenPath might really make sense. And the good thing is, again, because they are a nonprofit and they're not trying to scam you, you can call GreenPath and just get the counseling and decide, like, hey, I do want to do a debt management plan or I don't. And I do highly recommend, having that consultation. And then because you can feel really alone and you can feel really harassed by your debt. Like this person also was ending up paying late or over limit charges quite a bit. And it weighs on you. Every time you get that ding, you're like, oh, it's even worse than it was before. So this is a very predictable thing. You pay a monthly payment and you pay one payment a month to GreenPath, and then they pay your creditors. Um, and it can be a really nice way to simplify things, to know what you're in for, and to know exactly when you'll be out of debt. So for people who have tried this before on their own and struggled, I definitely recommend a debt management plan or at least talking to GreenPath. So coming out of this, I do want you to stay motivated. Think about what actions you want to take today, this week, this month. It might be just making a list of your debts and your interest rates. It might be talking to GreenPath. I did promise to get to the questions that we had ahead of time. I also want to mention that if you're a Harvard FCU member, you do have access to a service called Savvy Money. In your online banking, you do have to click yes, but it is free. Like you have to consent to participate in it, but it is free. So I do recommend you do that. And then if you do that in your online banking, every day you'll see your credit score, everything you owe, what the interest rates are, what your history of on-time payment has been, or where you've missed payments. And you can actually, it will walk you through like a plan for increasing your credit score. This is a great service, especially if you're getting ready, like if you're a couple years off from like getting a mortgage, for instance, or that's your hope, or you're going to have to get a car loan in a couple years or something like that. Doing just a few of the things, small actions can really improve your credit score and put you in a much better position of power for when you're going to a lender and you want to get the best interest rate possible. So Savvy Money is great. But we also have presentations on our YouTube about improving your credit score, and we have some coming up. So if you're not a member, there's lots of ways you can improve your credit score. All right, so these are some of the questions we received ahead of time. Just a reminder that you can go into the Q&A feature and submit live questions as well, going into more on your screen, on your toolbar for Zoom, going into Q&A, and you can put a question in. But one of the questions that we got was, how do you navigate paying off debt and building your savings simultaneously? I think we talked about this, but just to reiterate, you may need to start slow, but we definitely recommend you automate your savings. You put it into a high yield savings account at Harvard FCU. That's the Smart Rewards account, is our highest yield savings account. So that's an account that's insured. It is liquid and accessible and has a high interest rate. So even if you're only putting, like when you do your budget, and you say, okay, this is the amount extra I can put toward debt, don't put so much that you can't put anything into savings. Have some amount every month going into savings, even if it's small, even if it just feels symbolic, because literally just, first of all, small amounts add up. And second, having that habit when you do get a raise or something happens and you get a little bit more money flowing in, you can always increase that very easily because you remember, oh, that's savings, that's important. So, even if in the very beginning, when you're first building an emergency fund, the first thing we say to aim for is get 1 month's rent or 1 month's mortgage payment in there. And you won't believe the stress that kind of comes off your shoulders. Like you don't know you've been living under it until you get out from under it a little bit. And just that small difference of having that amount in the bank is going to feel great. And then building on that until you get to fully like 6 months of your expenses. But that could take years, and that's okay. So you can even dip into it sometimes as you need to, and then pay it back, replenish it. So that's how I would recommend that. We talked about this again. What are the pros and cons of student loan consolidation versus income-based repayment? Again, if it's a federal loan, and you're doing a consolidation with a private lender, you are going to lose access to those federal deferment and forgiveness programs. So you may want to have a session with GreenPath to really talk through the ins and outs for your particular financial situation. An income-based repayment plan can be a good choice, particularly if your income is low right now. You will pay more total interest over the life of the loan, but you will have those lower monthly payments. And typically there's an end time that if you're still paying after a certain number of years, GreenPath can give you all the information about the current status of those programs. But normally it's like, that after a certain number of years, you're done paying. And so I do recommend GreenPath for individual counseling on your student loans. This one, I think we also covered with the pros and cons of loan consolidation. You could get that lower interest rate. You could be out of debt sooner, but you do want to check terms and conditions really carefully, and always feel free. Our support center, again, because we're for our members, we're not trying to, no one has sales quotas. No one's trying to get you to get a product that isn't right for you. So you can always call our support center too and get or text us on the secure app, and get information about your situation. Does it make sense for me? And they'll talk you through it. How do I get out of debt and rebuild credit faster? So the whole thing, I think we've been talking about getting out of debt, but as far as rebuilding your credit, if you're a Harvard FCU member, check yes on that Savvy Money question in mobile banking, and then you'll be able to go into your Savvy Money credit report and get it. I think it's emailed to me every other day or something. Anyway, but you get a really regular your credit score, and then if you go into it, there's a simulator and a plan for improving your credit score if you need that, and then a simulator for if I did this, if I paid off this credit card entirely, how would that change my credit score? If I made my payments on time for 6 months, how much would my credit score increase? And it'll give you pretty accurate estimates and simulations of all that. If you don't have a Harvard FCU membership, first of all, we welcome you to join. But if you don't want to do that, we do have on our YouTube improving your credit workshops. You can go through GreenPath to improve your credit. So there's a lot of good options there. Okay. This person is making timely monthly payments on their student loans, and the balance never goes down. So you might be on one of those plans where you're paying a low monthly payment, but you're ending up paying more interest over time. And that's why the balance never seems to go down, because the amount of the interest that what you're paying is not going toward the principal. It's essentially paying part of the interest. That's my guess. You can talk to GreenPath about this. There may be reasons why it makes sense to keep this kind of a income-based repayment plan, but it may not. And to the extent that you want to know what your options are, I definitely recommend contacting GreenPath. I didn't mention, but GreenPath is available in many different languages as well. So if you're a Spanish speaker or some other language, they may very well have a counselor that can assist you in your language. Besides eliminating all these non-essentials, are there other creative ways to save while paying down debt? One thing I do want to say is try and build your budget so that you have some fun. If you have a situation where you're never having any fun, you're not going to stick to your budget. That's my belief. But I think finding ways to have fun that don't cost a lot of money are also great. I use my library really actively and do lots of stuff on there that you might not realize you can do, like get audiobooks and movies and things like that. Um, the other thing, obviously, the flip side of cutting back all your expenses in order to pay off your debt is getting a little extra income, maybe working a second job or doing some babysitting or something. At different times in my life, I've had a second job at the Gap. I have done grant writing for nonprofits on the side. Um, I've done babysitting. So, and usually I have some mental accounting, like I know money that I make for instance, from babysitting, that was my fun money. And I was allowed to do anything I wanted with it because I also was paying down my debt at the time. And that allowed me to have like feeling like, well, there was like guilt-free fun money. And so to do stuff with my kid and whatever. Um, so I guess those are your options. If you either have to increase your income or decrease your other bills in order to have some of that to save and to put toward debt. Um, but we also, some of our other presentations do talk about like ways to have fun for lower cost. And there's lots of great blogs and things out there that, including our blog, that cover some of that, like, free things to do this weekend in Boston, look for those and make sure that you're having some fun. Uh,
Can
I
I
don't
add something
think,
to that, Jen?
yeah, please. Thanks, Tom.
Sure. So one of the free things I like to do for fun is learning new skills through YouTube.
Ah,
And that's honestly cooking is something I'm really
hmm.
passionate about.
Yep.
And there are so many cooking videos from different cultures. Like you don't always to like sit in your
Hmm.
culture. You can
Yep.
dabble and tap into different things. My roommates are
Hmm.
Moroccan and Vietnamese. So I'm
Yeah.
learning like Vietnamese cuisine, I'm learning Moroccan
Yum.
cuisine, and I'm also like I'm shopping differently too because I'm shopping for ingredients and it causes me to have a lot more fun, but I'm not spending money on eating out. And it means, I save money when I'm grocery shopping and I get to learn how to like cook new stuff. So it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely am doing that too. You know that one of my
Hmm.
my New Year's resolution was I love beans and lentils, but I feel like I only had like a couple recipes that I knew how to make them. And
Hmm.
so I am trying out all these different, I've been making chana masala, and I know you sent me that lentil soup recipe that I'm gonna try.
Yes.
But
Uh,
like learning how to
Bisara.
cook for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Is a huge money saver for if you don't already know how to do that. You'll be shocked at how much money you can save. So even just some simple recipes like that you like,
Hmm.
learning how to make them, then you're not dependent on paying fees for, especially delivery services are crazy.
DoorDash is crazy.
Yes. I live in the city, so I never actually use any of those delivery services. I'm always like, you know what? I can just walk to the
Hmm.
But whenever I do, like the few times I have, I'm like, wow, the markup is insane.
Oh yes.
Um, yeah, so those, I think we have covered everything. We do have a disclaimer here that we cannot give tax, legal, or investment advice. We do have an investment advisor here at the credit union, Dennis Sexton, but I am not one. So all of these examples are for illustration, but if you want individualized help, you can get it through GreenPath and they can give you lots of advice on your budget in your specific situation. If you want to reach out to us, we're Harvard FCU on all the socials, including YouTube. So if you want to check that out, our YouTube, if you want to follow us on Instagram and get like occasional money advice for some of those like free things to do or stuff like that, Instagram is great for that. Thank you everybody for joining us. Please be in touch. Again, you're going to get the slides and the recording sent to you. And thank you. And I think that that is everything. Terrence, anything else you want to say?
Let's see. Oh yeah, failure is okay. If you make a
Yeah, that's
mistake,
great. Yeah.
and or what feels like a mistake, or you're not able to hit your goal that month or that week or even that year, it's totally okay. You are not measured by your failure, you're measured by how quickly you're able to get back up and try again.
Yeah. And I think again that, knowing that you're not alone, that yes, so there was a question we
Yes, I will do that right now. I'm going to put that link in the chat.
okay. So Terrence is putting the link in the chat for Green Path, but let me go back and see if I can grab that slide. Let's see. Let me see if I can just end on that slide. Harvard FCU/Green Path will get you there.
I'm also going to put the direct link to GreenPath actually.
Okay, super. Um, so yeah, and we will also, it's always, if you go onto our website
Ooh,
and go to learn, all of these links are there.
that's
So,
kind of long. Let me switch it.
oh my, okay.
Yep. I'm gonna
If you
send
just do
us.
harvardfcu.org/green path, that gets you there. All right.
Yeah, this one's a little bit easier.
Yeah, you
So
must
the
have
first
copied
one's
it
a
from
direct
somewhere weird.
link.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, boom.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's all the questions that we had. So thank you everybody for coming and good luck on your journey. Reach out to us if you need anything. You're going to get an email from me with some of this, all these slides and information. So thank you.
Cool,
All
cool.
right. Happy
Have a
Tuesday.
good one. Bye, everybody. Happy Tuesday.